Hey there, it's Sara, and I'm coming at you with a shorty episode. And today we're going to talk all about the power of journaling and tracking your alcohol-free journey. If you've ever wished that you could track your progress or understand your emotions or just make sense of your sobriety journey, this episode is for you. Journaling can be one of the most powerful tools in your sober toolbox. And today we're diving into how journaling helps you process emotions, celebrate your wins, and stay motivated on your journey. I wanted to do the research for this episode because I have actually fallen off the journaling bandwagon and I need to get back on. So I knew that researching this and bringing this information to you would actually get me motivated. So I have a little bit of an ulterior motive, but I hope that this helps you get onto the journaling bandwagon as well. When I have journaled, it helps me so much. I just feel so much clearer and I feel like I know myself better when I'm journaling. And when I know myself better, I can make clearer decisions that are more aligned with my values. So in this episode, I'm going to talk all about the benefits of journaling, and I'm going to offer you different types of journaling like free-form journaling, structured journaling, and even gratitude journaling. And then I'm going to give you tips to make journaling a habit even if you don't consider yourself a writer. I think that's a block a lot of us have. We're like, oh my gosh, I have to be a great writer to journal. And you absolutely don't. Since we'll be talking about building the habit of journaling this episode, I thought that it would be a great time for you to download my routines guidebook if you haven't already. This is a free guidebook and you can download it from a link in the show notes below. In this guidebook, I actually share all of my daily routines for you. I share my morning routine, my midday routine, and my evening routine. And then I help you build your perfect routine that will help you feel empowered on your alcohol-free journey. So go download that routines guidebook today from the link in the show notes so you can start feeling empowered with your routines in your alcohol-free journey. Okay, first we're going to talk all about why journaling is a powerful tool in sobriety. Journaling is the practice of recording thoughts, feelings, experiences for self-reflection and growth. It's not about writing a novel, it's about creating a space for honesty and awareness. Here are 4 different ways that journaling helps support your alcohol-free journey. First, it allows you to track your progress. When I first quit drinking, I didn't tell anybody I was doing it. My husband knew. That was the only person who knew for the first few weeks. And because of that, I was using my journal as a place to share what was happening. I was doing gratitude journaling, but it gave me a space to write down things like, I just had my first hangover-free weekend, or I just hit 10 days alcohol-free. I can't even remember the last time I did that. Having a place to write that down allowed me to see how far I had come on my journey, because even in the beginning, I needed to see those wins, which may seem small when you're first starting out, but I say it all the time. The first weeks are the hardest and they are the most important. So track your wins as you're going and it helps you start seeing how far you've come. Now I can see that number grow and grow and I'm always like, oh my gosh, I can't believe how far I've come. Second, journaling helps you to identify triggers. Patterns start to emerge as you write regularly. You'll start to notice that you write down things about maybe anger or sadness or even joy, and you start to see things like, oh, when this feeling happens, it often makes me feel like, oh, I want to drink. You start to put all those together and then you go, oh, well, that's a trigger for me. That's something that I need to be aware of. So when I know that it's coming my way, I can have a plan in place. Third, journaling helps to reduce overwhelm. I cannot tell you how much this is true. When you get thoughts out of your head and onto paper, it helps to reduce mental clutter. Part of my journaling process is usually what I call doing a brain dump. This is where I just write down everything that I think I need to do that day. And then I can actually use this to craft my to-do list for the day because I can never actually do all the things I put on my brain dump list, but it just helps to get it all out. It also helps when you're really struggling with an issue. Maybe you have to make a really big life choice, or maybe there's somebody in your life that seems to really be bringing you down for some reason and you can't figure it out. When you're just obsessing about those thoughts in your head, they're just stuck there. But when you can get them out onto paper, they actually leave your brain and then you have more brain space, and that means you can actually manage your day-to-day life better. The fourth way that journaling helps your sobriety is that it helps to boost self-awareness. As you write down what's happening in your life, you actually start to see what's working and what's not. You start to see what's frustrating you and what's bringing you joy. It actually helps you get to know yourself, which I feel like is such a huge part of the alcohol-free journey. You get to relearn who you are without alcohol, and for a lot of us, we don't know who that is. So when you're doing something like journaling, you start to see like, oh, this made me really happy, or oh, this made me really irritated. And just knowing those things makes you go, wow, I'm starting to know who I am. You start to know yourself like a friend, which is really the coolest gift. Now let's discuss different kinds of journaling you can do. I always feel like I'm a person who needs a framework or I need a guide. When I start journaling and I just sit down and I open a blank notebook, I just feel overwhelmed. I'm like, what the heck am I supposed to write down in this thing? And I know I'm not the only one that feels like that because I talk to a lot of members of the Daymakers who say, well, I don't know what to write down in a journal. I just don't know how to do this. So I'm actually going to give you 5 different types of journaling you can do. Pick the one that seems the best to you and go with it, and set a time goal for yourself. Say, I'm going to work on this type of journaling for 30 days and see how I feel about it after that. And maybe you're not going to journal every 30 days. Tell yourself, like, I'm going to do it 5 days a week for 30 days. All right. The first way is gratitude journaling. This is the journaling that I'm actually the most comfortable with. When you're doing gratitude journaling, you're actually focusing on what's going well instead of what's going wrong. When you're focusing on what's going well in your life, more good stuff comes your way. It really does happen that way because you just put yourself into this mindset where you're like, all this great stuff is coming my way. When you're on an alcohol-free journey, I want to challenge you to write down at least one thing each day that's going right in your life because you're choosing to be alcohol-free. That's going to help you stay more connected to your alcohol-free journey and make you stay more motivated. And I know a lot of people roll their eyes when they hear people talking about gratitude journaling. I know that because I was that person for a really long time. But there's actually science out there that shows that gratitude journaling actually boosts dopamine, serotonin, and improves your mood. So knowing that, why don't you give it a try? All right. The second form of journaling you can do is daily reflection journaling. Daily reflection journaling is a free form type of journaling, and it's where you actually just write out what happened in your day, and you can write about how it made you feel. Daily reflection journaling is actually a free form approach to journaling. It's simply where you write about your day, and you can write about how you feel about the experiences that happened through the day. This is the journaling that I used to do as a kid, and it is a type of journaling that I really wish I could get back to as an adult, but at this point in my life, I am so tired in the evening that writing in the evening sounds a little overwhelming. But one thing I did find last year that I really enjoyed was my line a day journal. And that's something that I definitely need to get back to. It's a journal that you can buy online, and it actually has a page for each day of the year. And on those pages, there are 5 different spots. So say today is March 4th, there will be a spot in that book that is a page dedicated to March 4th. And then there's 5 different areas that start with 20. So you write in 25, and then you just write in what happened that day. It's a very limited amount of lines, which helps me because I can feel really overwhelmed if there's too many lines available to me. And I can also get lost in my writing, which is a good thing. But a lot of times I'm journaling in the morning and I do need to be ready by a certain time. So having the line a day journal just makes it so I can write down a few things that happened, how I felt about them, and move on. I'm actually going to commit to starting this one back up because I know I started my line a day journal last year right around this time, and I'm really excited to see what was happening that time of year. And that's the other cool thing. As you go through it and fill it out more often and more frequently, then the next year when you're filling it out, you actually get to see the years above it. So it's a really cool thing to do. If you're feeling really overwhelmed by the idea of journaling, it is a great place to start. The next way that you can start journaling is to do a triggers and cravings journal. This is going to allow you to start tracking what triggers you to drink, what makes you have cravings, and you're going to be able to start pinpointing those little moments. This is going to give you so much knowledge about yourself and your habits around alcohol. You can do this at a set time of day and just ask yourself, were there times in my day today where I felt like drinking? And then write about how can I prepare for those times differently? Or you can actually use this as a way to get through your cravings. And anytime that a craving or trigger happens, you can actually write about it. You could do this quickly by keeping this journal in the notes section of your phone. And then when it happens, if you're somewhere where you're like, well, I can't really just start writing in my journal right now, maybe you can excuse yourself to the bathroom and you actually can write about it really quick. Just do it in bullet points. So then later on in the day, you can come back to it and reflect, like, why did this happen? Let me start learning more about myself through this. I think that this is a great thing to do if you're brand new to your journey, and I wish I would have done something like this. The next type of journaling you can do is future self journaling. I love this idea because if you've been listening to this podcast for a while, you know that I love setting goals and envisioning my future self and then figuring out what I can do in my current life to become that future self. So start journaling about where you want to see yourself in the future and then use this knowledge to actually start going, okay, what do I need to do in my day-to-day life right now to become that person? Or how can I act in my day-to-day life right now as if I'm that person? An example prompt for this is, where do I see myself in 6 months from now? And then you can take this to different times in the future. So where do I see myself 30 days from now? Where do I see myself a year from now, 5 years from now, 10 years from now? You get the picture. The options in this one are endless, and it is just such a fun way to really get intentional about who you want to be in the future. And then you can start working backwards on that idea and saying, okay, if I want to be this person in the future, what do I need to do today to start getting there? Okay, here's the fifth way that you can start journaling: list-based journaling. This is a great way to start journaling if you don't like writing a lot. I get it. Not all of us like writing. I actually do like writing, so I enjoy all different types of journaling, but I like list-based journaling as well because sometimes I'm short on time. I'm busy. We're all busy, right? So sometimes just knowing, okay, I can do this in a list-based way. I don't have to feel like I need to write these long paragraphs can help journaling feel attainable. You can make lists of wins, emotions, things that you're looking forward to, or challenges that you've faced. I'm sure that you can Google list journaling prompts and you will have so many ideas that this can take you through the year if you wanted to. If you're going to start doing this form of journaling for today, just write out 5 ways that your life has changed since you quit drinking. Okay, so now we know why journaling helps. We know 5 different ways to start journaling, but how do we actually start making it a habit? Because that's the hard thing, right? It's great to say, I'm going to start journaling, and then you sit down and you do it once or twice, and then that journal, it just sits there. It kind of sits there like a reminder, like, hey, you're not writing in me, and then you start to feel kind of guilty. So let's actually figure out how to make it a habit, and then you won't have any of that happen. First, let's talk about how you can start overcoming resistance. I want you to know that journaling doesn't have to be perfect. I want you to get over that idea right now. The most important thing is that you're making progress. You're starting to do it regularly. Don't worry about it being perfect. You don't have to use proper grammar. Your spelling doesn't have to be correct. You don't have to use proper paragraph forms. Just start writing. I also want you to start small. Say, I'm going to journal for 5 minutes a day, or I'm going to journal 1 sentence a day. Don't feel like you need to do this huge thing. Sometimes on the first day, you will do this huge thing, but on those days where you're meeting resistance, just tell yourself, okay, I'm just going to write down 1 sentence today. The last idea I have for you for overcoming resistance is to use the voice notes in your phone. Use the voice to text. It is such a great way to get the thoughts out of your head, and then all of a sudden they're notated in your phone for you. Use technology like this to your advantage. This is the way I do so many of my Instagram posts, how I respond to the day makers in our private message thread community, and how I make lists, how I text my parents. I often feel like, oh my gosh, I have to write all this out. That's so overwhelming. Well, use the voice to text function and it makes it so much easier. I also want you to start thinking about when is a time of my day where I can consistently do this. Set a time where you know you won't be bothered or disrupted. For me, that's morning time. I fit it into my morning time routine, and I know that's what I'm going to get right back to doing after I get done recording this podcast. I'm like, okay, tomorrow I'm going to start my journaling back up in my line a day journal. It's so simple. I know I can do this. Now, if morning time isn't the best for you, then do evening. When you hop into bed, get out your journal, write a little bit in it, however you've decided you're going to start journaling, and try to keep that consistent. The last thing I want you to remember is that you can use prompts to get you started. I mentioned Googling prompts, talking about the list-based journaling, but you can do this for any type of journaling. Go onto Pinterest or go onto Google and say journaling prompts. You're going to have so many that you're going to be like, okay, I know what to journal about now. Prompts are really nice when you sit down and you're like, what am I supposed to write down? Well, all of a sudden you're going to have these questions being asked and you're going to go, oh, I know what to write about. This isn't so hard. Here's some prompts today to help get you started. What's one thing I did today that I'm proud of? The next one is, how does sobriety feel today compared to when I started? And the last idea is, what's one challenge that I overcame this week? There's 3 prompts that can get you started, so there's no excuses on why you can't start journaling today. I hope that this episode helped, and I hope that you're excited to start journaling. Remember, your words matter, even if no one else reads them. You deserve a space to be honest, to process, and to celebrate your growth. And that's exactly what journaling can be for you. All right, if you enjoyed this episode, be sure to rate it and review it and share it with a friend. And if you haven't already, be sure to grab that routines guidebook because it's going to help you get set up with routines in your alcohol-free life where you can start fitting in things like journaling. Thank you so much for listening, and I'll be in your ear in the next episode.